Hey guys, what's going on? Got another video for you, another Strider video. This is going to be the what not to do with your brand new Strider the day after you get it video, which is maybe what I'll even title it. I don't know yet. In my little review video I did, I pointed out the pivot screw and how it looks a little different, mainly that the portion on this side, which goes into this side, is notched right there. Yeah, I did that with a Dremel and a cutting disc. But before I get into that, let me tell you about what happened. Now, as most great travesties occur, it's not just a single thing that goes wrong. It's a carefully laid out sequence of mess-ups that result in a night or day of hell. And that's pretty much what happened. It all went wrong the night I got this knife, and I decided to Loctite everything with blue Loctite, the medium Loctite, because that's what I usually do with all my knives. You know, let's make sure everything's secure. I didn't really think about the fact that the construction of this knife doesn't really lend itself well to Loctiting, mainly because everything that's holding this together and you're screwing into, except for the pocket clip and the hinderer stop, everything else is kind of free spinning and has a male and a female part, so like a bolt and a washer. So if you Loctite that, it's all good until you go to try and take it apart again, and then things just spin. Most notably this pin right here. It's basically just two pieces, one screws into the other, and I Loctited that, and I Loctited it well. Now that in and of itself wouldn't be an issue, but that made the next thing I did a huge issue, which, you know, this is embarrassing to talk about, you know, doing something like this to a knife of this caliber the day after I get it. It just goes to show how insane I can be sometimes. But I noticed when I got this that the lock bar, the frame here, was really stiff. You know, it's really stiff, and after playing with it, it kind of hurt my thumb a little, so I thought, wow, genius. I'll take off the pocket clip and the stop and just give it a little bend. Just kind of bend it out a little bit, loosen it up. You know, no harm, no foul, because I will be able to just do little increments at a time. It'll be fine. So that's what I did. I bent it out, and of course, I'm sure you can assume I bent it out too far, caused two problems. One thing is that because of the lower pressure, the lockup, it was just barely on that corner, and I could actually spine whack it. I mean, pretty hard, but still, spine whack it, and the lock would fail. Second issue is the lock bar holds the detent. And if you don't know what a detent is on a knife, it's a little ball bearing that sits in here, and then there's a little hole in the blade itself, so that when you close it, that ball bearing goes into that detent, and that's what holds the blade down, more or less. Well, because of the lower pressure here and this big heavy blade, you know, after that you could just flick this thing open super easy. Major problem, right? Well, but hey, all I have to do is just take it apart and bend this back the way it should be, right? Yeah, that's where the Loctite situation comes into play. Could not actually, you know, I couldn't get this out. It would just free spin. Everything I tried, free spin, free spin. And that's where more mistakes happened. If I just would have slept on it, thought about it, I could have done something maybe the next morning, which I ended up doing anyways, but with less damage. But instead, I just went nuts. I wanted to fix it that night. You know, I couldn't sleep until I get this thing taken care of. So I just went crazy with it. I was jamming stuff in here to try and keep this static while I was turning this. But that Loctite, man, I mean, it's just tough stuff. So then I end up, because I couldn't find, I mean, this tool, this outer ring has two little notches in it. And it's not even as simple as just finding something that fits in there that's that wide, because this middle piece actually is higher than the grooves, if that makes sense. So you really need something that's concave with two little tabs that fit in the side there. So that's where the extra notches come in. I cut that to try and use a screwdriver. It was just a mess. It's amazing that it actually looks this good. And, you know, I've since painted this because, you know, without the paint on it, it's actually really all jacked up. But, so, to make a long story short, next morning, oh no, there's more. There's more. Okay, so I couldn't get this off. And it made it even worse because this G10 side, because of all the spinning, it started to kind of carve away a little section in that G10, which made this have a lot of play all of a sudden. You know, it was snug, but because I was spinning it, it was carving out a little groove in that G10 side, and it made this whole pivot area loose, which made the blade a little loose. Anyway, so then I thought, well, maybe there's another way I can address this lockup. So I took this is terrible, guys. I took the Dremel to the back here to try and allow this lock bar to engage further with less power. Yeah, that was a mess, man. Oh, that was terrible. So by the time I got done screwing around with that, I had a lot of forward play, and this was slipping off of there. So man, needless to say, my Friday night was just a bummer. Terrible night. So I woke up the next morning, you know, just pissed off. Decided to give it another hack. I took a piece of steel from something, can't remember, piece of steel. Took the Dremel to it and basically fashioned, I was going to bring it in here, but I totally spaced it. I fashioned a makeshift tool that would fit in those outer grooves. I ground them down so they weren't too wide. You know, spent a good half hour making this tool. Then I took a lighter and heated up the titanium side really hot, trying to get it loose. And I finally got this sucker to come off, popped it out, tightened up this frame lock back where it should be. Luckily, my grinding had no lasting effects. It's locking up at a great spot right now, super tight all over like a bank vault, no problems. So I was able to actually get this knife functioning again and back in its original condition, except for the damage to the pivot screw, which, by the way, if anyone knows where I can get a replacement pivot screw, I've tried looking around, I've come up with nothing. Let me know, that'd be much appreciated. So, I mean, there's a lot of morals to this story. One, I wouldn't recommend Loctiting your Striders just due to their design, unless the newer versions are different. Could be. Second thing, if you run into a problem like that, sleep on it. Spend the time to come up with a better solution instead of acting like a maniac like I do and just start, any thought that pops in your head, just start tearing into it at 10 o'clock at night. Not a good idea. Alright guys, that's it. That's the travesty that happened to this very expensive knife the day after I got it, because I obsess about things and I want to get them perfect. I wanted to Loctite it, and you know, I wanted the frame lock to feel just perfect, so I thought I'd tweak it, and one tweak led to a problem, which the tweak to fix that problem led to another problem. Turned into a mess. Alright guys, take it easy.